Hi guys, Denise here. Welcome to my channel. I'm a manifestation coach. There is a link in the description below if you want to check out my coaching services. Today, we're going to talk about this loop and this cycle that a lot of people feel like they're repeating and they're worried about and they're concerned about and they want to know how to get out of it. So, we're going to talk about that. And I want to start by reminding you that your reality, everything that you see, is not happening to you. It's something that you're creating from within. It's something that you're pushing out from your assumptions, your thoughts, and beliefs. So, oftentimes, when we find ourselves in a repetitive pattern or a cycle, it can even just be as simple as the assumption of, I'm afraid to do this because what if it doesn't work? What if I end up disappointed? And sometimes we manifest that, and sometimes we manifest it multiple times in regards to the same situation, the same specific person, the same manifestation, right? And it looks like or feels like we're failing. We're not failing. You're never failing at your manifestation. You're always manifesting exactly what you're assuming. The only thing is learning to harness what you're assuming toward the fulfillment of your desire. And I understand that that's the tricky part of it, but especially when we're analyzing and breaking down how we've been manifesting and what we're creating and what's happening now and why is it happening, we really want to keep sinking back into everything is just a manifestation. That's it. There's no other story, there's no other excuse, there's no other reason. It simply is because I thought it would or I thought it wouldn't. I assumed it would or I assumed it wouldn't. And you can look at why, and it's beautiful to unpack and look at why and then create new assumptions. But ideally, you're not getting stuck in the victim perspective of why is this happening? Why is it this way? Why can I get out of this? Why am I here again? But if you are, it's okay. You don't want to beat yourself up about it. You don't want to feel bad for it, feel guilty, or feel like you're never going to get it, or be frustrated with yourself. Just be gracious with yourself, be supportive with yourself, and trust and know that it's all part of you getting there. So, another thing with looping or cycling or just repeating patterns that I figured out for myself, and I see it with clients all the time, is that they're not really giving themselves, and I wasn't giving myself full credit to recognize that I wasn't in the same place and I wasn't doing the same thing and it wasn't happening exactly the same. And even if the same situation was manifesting, I was thinking about it a little bit differently every time, sometimes drastically differently. But if not, that's okay. And sometimes it was these little micro shifts of what just happened and what am I telling myself this means and how do I get myself back to where I want to be, right? Little micro shifts. And that's what creates the big change. So I know we're all wanting things to just shift instantly and everything to just flip around and just be the way we want it to be. But that moment when it does happen, like for me, that moment when my relationship changed and it actually sunk in, or my career changed and it actually sunk in, or my financial situation or health or any of the things I've manifested over the many years, when they finally shifted, I shouldn't even say finally, but when they did actually change and stay that way, it wasn't that new in terms of I had been making micro shifts over and over and over for sometimes weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years. It just depends on what the manifestation was and how much resistance I personally had to it. But it's like even in those repeated patterns, like with my breakup, for example, several breakup, my relationship, for example, with several breakups in my relationship, it looked like the same thing was happening, but every time I was perceiving it a little bit differently. Every time I was reacting a little bit differently. Every time I was understanding something about myself that I didn't understand the time before, or understanding something about manifestation that I didn't understand the time before, or that I understood logically but wasn't actually applying and practicing. And so it's all an opportunity. And also give yourself credit, because I see this a lot too, where people aren't recognizing or noticing that it's not actually a loop, like where you're just in a circle. It's a spiral. You're spiraling. We call it upward spirals. You're going, you're going, right? Like you're getting there every time. For me, I'll keep using myself as the example. every time we would have an issue or a breakup, when I would manifest him back, when things came back, at least for a short period of time, there was a different understanding. There was a better perspective. Now, through that, I was shifting my self-concept. And so I would, sink back into the old self-concept because I was so focused on manifesting the relationship. I wasn't really starting with the self-concept. I knew I should be and I wanted to be, and I was, I was getting there. But a lot of the emphasis in the first several breakups or first few breakups were put on the relationship and the specific person and just getting him back. But even still, even in that, once I did manifest him back every single time, again, like I was a little bit stronger. I was a little bit clearer. I had a better self-concept. I don't know what I could measure it against, but it kept improving every time. The space between, would go longer of feeling or thinking positively, thus feeling positively, not anticipating the worst, not having anxiety. Those moments started to shrink in comparison to how they were previously. But as I was saying before, it wasn't really all of a sudden. I wasn't all of a sudden not anxious one day. I wasn't all of a sudden just confident and having a healthy mental diet one day. It was an accumulation of persistence and practice and determination and falling down and getting back up and understanding that that is part of what this process is. And I want you to not call it a cycle, and I want you to not call it a loop. I want you to call it a spiral. I want you to call it an expansion, an evolution, a coming home to, a returning to, whatever you want. Just put a positive spin on it, because it really is a positive thing and it's beautiful. And you will look back and go, wow, look at what I've accomplished. Look at what I've created. Look at who I am now compared to who I was then. And that's what it's all about. So when you're, feeling like you're in that repetitive place or that pattern, like I said, first off, it could just be the manifestation of, I'm afraid this won't work, right? So you manifest a little supporting evidence of it's not working, but that's okay. Like, everything you manifest isn't actually evidenced, and it isn't truth, and it isn't definitive. It is simply a revealing of your assumptions. That's it. So you can change those. And with practice, you will, right? And you may start to change an assumption, and then you might find yourself strongly back in that assumption for a day or two or a week or a month or whatever. But keep doing the work, keep practicing, because the scales are going to tip. You're going to see measurable change. And a lot of you are just ignoring that right now. A lot of my clients, at least, and especially over the years, I've seen so many clients where I can see their change. It's measurable. I can see it. And there can be, many things that have been built up that have shown their change in their self-concept and what they're creating in their lives. And they will discredit themselves and say, the same thing is happening. I feel like I'm in the exact same place. You're never in the exact same place. Never, never. Because you're never that exact same version. You're always going to be changing, like little micro shifts, right? But again, that's what adds up, and that's what makes the big shift. So your reality is just the revealing of your inner state of consciousness. If you're in an undesired reality, again, after having not been, it's okay. It's temporary. Don't let it be permanent for you. Just acknowledge it. This is how I'm feeling. This is where I'm at. This is temporary and permanent. I'm on my way back. And this is also good because it's revealing something to me. It's showing me what I want to focus on instead. It's showing me a different way that I can think about things, a different perspective. It's showing me, for me, a lot of it was, it's showing me that even if I manifest all these things that I think I'm afraid of manifesting, I'm actually still okay. And I don't have to be afraid of that. And in not being afraid of that, it wasn't a focal point anymore. And thus I didn't manifest it anymore because I had a new self-concept that wasn't fearing the end of my relationship or being rejected or abandoned. So it's all imperative. It's all beautiful. You're not stuck in a loop. You are spiraling. You are expanding. You are evolving. You are getting there. You are going through the process and trust yourself through it. All right? All right. I love you guys. I will see you next video.